Today, in American politics, the situation in Washington is becoming more chaotic, more divided, and more unpredictable than it has been in years. A series of decisions and controversies involving President Donald Trump are colliding all at once. Foreign war, political infighting, government shakeups, and growing public backlash. Let's start with the biggest issue dominating headlines right now: the escalating conflict with Iran. Over the past week, the United States and its allies have been conducting military strikes targeting Iranian military infrastructure. The campaign has quickly turned into one of the most significant military escalations in the region in years. Reports say the conflict has already resulted in large numbers of casualties, including American service members, while tensions across the Middle East continue rising. The controversy surrounding this war isn't just about the fighting itself. It's about how it started and who has the authority to continue it. In Washington this week, Congress attempted to limit the president's ability to keep conducting strikes without direct approval from lawmakers. The House of Representatives voted on a resolution that would have forced the administration to seek congressional authorization before continuing military action. But the resolution failed. The vote was extremely close and ultimately allowed the military campaign to continue without immediate congressional approval. Just days earlier, the Senate rejected a similar effort. So what we're seeing now is a situation where the United States is involved in an expanding military conflict, while the branch of government responsible for declaring war is divided on whether it should intervene. Critics say that shows a deeper problem inside Washington: the erosion of congressional authority when it comes to war. Supporters of the administration argue that limiting the president's power during an active conflict could weaken the country's ability to respond to threats. Opponents argue the opposite, that allowing a president to wage war without approval undermines the constitutional system itself, and that debate is only getting more intense. President Trump has also taken an extremely hardline stance toward Iran, reportedly demanding what he called unconditional surrender while refusing to negotiate under current conditions. Statements like that have raised concerns among analysts who worry the conflict could escalate even further. Some experts warn that if oil exports in the Gulf region are disrupted, global energy markets could be thrown into chaos, potentially sending oil prices soaring and impacting economies around the world. And that's exactly the kind of ripple effect that turns a regional conflict into a global economic problem. But while foreign policy dominates headlines, turmoil inside the administration is adding even more controversy. In a surprising move this week, President Trump removed Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem from her position following growing criticism surrounding her department's performance. However, the shakeup didn't end there. Instead of leaving government entirely, Noem was reportedly reassigned to a new role connected to a regional security initiative. Critics argue the move raises questions about accountability, whether controversial officials are actually being held responsible or simply moved around within the administration. Meanwhile, the Department of Homeland Security itself is facing funding disputes during a partial government shutdown, adding another layer of dysfunction to the situation in Washington. But perhaps the most interesting political development right now is happening inside the parties themselves. Even within the president's own political movement, divisions are starting to appear over the war with Iran. Some supporters believe the military action is necessary to confront a long-standing geopolitical rival. Others worry that it contradicts the America First approach that originally focused on avoiding large overseas conflicts. That split is creating a rare moment of disagreement among Trump's core political base. And inside the Democratic Party, things aren't exactly calm either. One of the most surprising developments involves Senator John Fetterman, who has increasingly broken with his own party on foreign policy issues. Fetterman has publicly supported the strikes on Iran and opposed efforts by fellow Democrats to limit the president's authority, arguing that national security decisions require decisive action. That stance has created tension inside the Democratic Party. Progressive activists who once supported Fetterman are now accusing him of abandoning his earlier positions, while some conservatives have praised him for what they see as a more pragmatic approach. The result is a political landscape where traditional party lines are starting to blur, and while Washington fights over war powers and political loyalty, another controversy is unfolding at the state level. In Virginia, lawmakers have pushed new legislation that would require schools to teach that the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol was a violent event, while discouraging claims that it was peaceful or tied to widespread election fraud. Supporters say the law is necessary to combat misinformation in classrooms. Critics say it represents government overreach into how history and politics are taught. Either way, the debate highlights how political conflicts in the United States are no longer limited to elections or policy decisions. They are increasingly shaping education, culture, and even historical narratives. When you step back and look at everything happening at once, a pattern begins to emerge. Foreign conflict, political infighting, government shakeups, and legal battles over history and education. It creates a constant sense of instability in the political system. For many Americans watching from the outside, it can feel like Washington is stuck in a permanent crisis mode. Every week brings a new controversy. Every decision sparks another partisan battle, and the gap between political leaders and the public continues to grow. Whether it's foreign policy decisions made without clear consensus, cabinet officials being replaced amid controversy, or lawmakers fighting over constitutional powers, the overall picture is one of a government struggling to maintain stability. The question now is whether this period of turmoil is temporary or whether it's becoming the new normal for American politics. Because if the last few weeks are any indication, the political battles inside Washington are far from over, and the consequences of those battles could shape the future of the country for years to come.